Hey, Autumn Athletes, Larry Sorensen here. And today I am going to chat with Diane Peterson and find out what makes her an Autumn Athlete that's not done yet. But before we do, as always, remember, if you like our content, please like, subscribe, and ding that bell for notifications. All right, let's get this thing rolling. Diane, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you kick us off with some of your bio basics?
Hi, I'm Diane. I am 62 years old and I'm a long distance hiker. I try to take a big trip once a year, at least once a year, that's like 400 or 500 miles. Sometimes I do smaller ones over, multiple ones in a season, just kind of depends on what the work schedule is. I am married. I have two big dogs and we are pretty active. We do a little bit of hiking and backpacking together and a lot of scuba diving together. I am currently a full-time personal trainer that really focuses on orthopedic exercises. So one of my favorite clientele is older athletes who are trying to keep doing the sports that they love to do, but are maybe negotiating joint issues, recovery times, and all that kind of stuff that just happens when we get older. Doesn't mean we can't do stuff. It just means that we have to kind of approach it differently. And I train not only other hikers, but golfers, pickleballers, skiers, all kinds of folks doing all kinds of fun things here in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, so let's take a little journey back in time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your fitness background?
I have always been active, but I started taking dance lessons when I was about 10. And I realized immediately that that's what I wanted to do as a career. And I just put in my 10,000 hours and actually was hired for my first professional show when I was 16. Still like trying to get through high school at the same time. And I toured with that and really just had a great time with that career, made some lovely friends that I'm still friends with now. And then I just kind of moved in different directions, went to LA. I was trying to do the actress thing, and that kind of did not work. But I was always doing fitness on the side. I'd always worked in clubs from early days in the late 70s when they were just sort of figuring out gyms, and then evolved as the fitness industry evolved. Finally went back to college in my late 20s, got a degree in radio, television, film, and had a 15-year career in broadcasting. Still doing fitness on the side. And that's also where I met my husband. He was my scuba instructor. And we got married underwater in the Seattle Aquarium. And I kind of stayed with broadcasting a little bit longer and then transitioned full time about 20 years ago into fitness as a trainer, and then really sort of carved out my niche as to what I wanted to do, which is basically that sort of corrective orthopedic type of training so that, again, people can do their sports.
So was there anybody or anything that specifically inspired you along the way?
For hiking, there are some people that really inspired me. And the first one, the most obvious, is Cheryl Strayed with her book Wild. So I read the book and I really loved the fact that it was a journey for her of self-discovery. It's not a how-to book. So the real hikers are like, that's not how you hike. I'm like, yeah, of course, that's not how we hike, but it is how we process stuff. And I got the information for hiking at other sources. But it was, she inspired that. And when that book came out, I started seeing a lot of women on hiking trails, hiking by themselves. And my friend from work who got me into hiking and backpacking, he had noticed that as well. And it was, I believe, because the book was out, and so women were getting out on the trail and just kind of carving their own path there. So she definitely was the first one to inspire me. And then there's a lot of people in the industry, YouTube influencers and book writers, that have also inspired me along the way. I could name them all if you want, but they're not family members. They're just people that are really good at this.
So did you have any kind of physical or mental setbacks along the way in your fitness journey?
Always. So I don't have a great spine. I have scoliosis. And although medically they say, oh, it's not that bad, they're not living in my body. And it did affect my dancing for sure. I didn't realize at the time. I know now, because I know more now, I know more kinesiology, that yeah, it most definitely affected my dancing. And because there's that crookedness, and it's been crooked, so it was discovered at 12. So 50 years I've been doing things on this crooked spine. So now I have all of these bulging discs. I have degeneration in between the vertebrae, stenosis. Discs are popping out and nudging at the spinal nerve, and creating like sometimes excruciating pain. I had to get off the Wonderland Trail, which is the trail around Mount Rainier, last summer, because it just felt like I was hiking with a knife stabbing in my hip. So yeah, most definitely that would be the biggest. I think at 62, yeah, there's always going to be stuff, but that's probably the biggest one. The challenge of trying to kind of, you know, maintain my spine so that I can continue to carry a pack and go for long distances, and also carry really heavy scuba gear, much shorter distances, maybe just from the car down into the water, but still it's quite heavy.
Tell us a little bit about some of your best achievements, your personal bests in any sports, really, but certainly in the hiking realm.
So, well, for dancing, it was obviously getting into a really fantastic Follies style show at age 16. So that was amazing, and it was just a great ride. For hiking, my first through hike in 2016, because I had nothing to build upon and I didn't know how to do this other than stuff you read. And in 2016, YouTube was not really that prolific, so I didn't have influencers that I could go look on and see what they're doing. And I hiked the entire state of Washington through the Cascades. I did it in a month. It was about 520 miles, and it was fabulous. It was hard. It was physically the hardest thing I've ever done. And I did try to process some relationships, particularly one with my dad. And mostly it was like, I don't know. He did what he tried his best. He wasn't that great, but he tried his best, because it was just so physically hard to get up these mountains. But it was, it's what do they call that? Like your secondary fun, like primary is like it's fun right now, and then secondary, it's not fun right now. But when you look back, it's like it was a great time. So it was that kind of fun.
Okay, so what do you have cooking right now? Tell us a little bit about any pending events or goals that you have coming up.
So after I did the Washington section of the PCT, I took a year off to go back and hit some of my favorites, show my husband some of it, and then I did Oregon. And Oregon is where I actually had to get off early to go home for back surgery. I didn't know I needed back surgery, but there was something, that's when I noticed that something was terribly, terribly wrong. And then I took time off to do the Arizona Trail. So my goal has always been to go back to the PCT. For me, the Pacific Crest Trail is like your first love. There's something particularly special about that trail. And it's the one I've done the most research on, seen the most documentary. So I'm headed back this summer to do I'm hoping to get like 500 or maybe 600 miles. I want to kind of beat my personal best at this point. And it'll be Northern California. So I'm going to start in Ashland. I'm going to walk south until I have to go back to work, and then I'll record it there. But it's also a process too, because this past year my dad's had Alzheimer's, and it was very, very difficult trying to deal with that. And then he passed away at Christmas. So I feel like I need to take again my Cheryl Strayed moment and process a relationship while I'm also trying to hit a physical personal best. So
speaking of hitting a physical personal best, obviously you've got to work towards doing that. So what is your current training regimen in order to accomplish this goal?
I run it in 3 phases for both strength training and cardio. So the first phase has to do with more sort of functional and corrective. So single arm, single leg, full body exercises. So I don't do single joint exercises like bicep curl. I would do a row because that incorporates a bicep curl and it's more applicable to what I do. So I focus there. And then phase 2 with the strength training is then I start pulling in more bilateral moves for that brute strength. So there's more squats or leg presses, that kind of stuff. I can't really I can't pull my own body weight up, but I can do the assisted. I've got very long limbs. So it's just, I think ergonomically, I'm not designed for that, but I do. And then push-ups and, all of that kind of stuff. And then in the third phase, I pull in plyometrics, and plyometrics is really challenging for our age group, because if you have arthritis, your body does not like that. So I have techniques to kind of work around or adjust or apply. It's essentially deceleration skills. So where normally when you do, we'll go with like a bicep curl. So you do a bicep curl and the muscle contracts, but when you bring that weight down, the muscle lengthens and still is under force. So if you can do those deceleration where you're lengthening the muscle under force, that's going to help with things like jumping off a log, which happens a lot with blowdowns and can be really challenging. It's also helpful for going across streams. I watched my group go across the stream and then like a millennial go across the stream, and boy, that was a totally different technique there. So I tried out some of what I saw on the trail with younger people to basically, you know, for myself and other people my age as well. I do a lot of footwork, a lot of different things for the feet. For cardio, I work in kind of 3 categories. So something that would be high intensity interval training, so you can really try to push that anaerobic threshold, and that helps with getting up hills. Another is what would be called race pace if you were a runner, but basically building the aerobic base so that you can work harder and keep your heart rate lower. And then of course your long day, which is your hike. And that's where I'm headed tomorrow.
When you do, you know, your compound movement, squats, that type of thing, are you trying to do top sets, heavier weights, lower reps, or do you just stick with lower weights and high reps?
No, I don't just stick with lower weights and high reps. With the unilateral single arm, single leg compound moves, because balance and core is involved in there, those weights tend to be lighter than they would be if you were doing a squat, but they still might be heavier for the movement that you're doing. I work in the muscle endurance range, which is like 2 sets, 15 to 20 reps. I work in the strength phase, which would be like 4 sets, 4 to 8 reps, and then basically kind of that mid range, which is 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 12. You mix it up because your body, in 3 weeks, your body, if you're only doing one thing, your body will kind of forget the other. So if you're only doing 2 sets, high reps, lower weight, you're going to lose this. So you kind of have to get it all in there. And you don't do it all in the same day. You mix it up. But you do need it all.
So what's your favorite training exercise?
Do you want me to show it to you?
If you want to, sure.
So I tell my clients, if I'm ever trapped on a desert island and I can only take one exercise, this is the one I want. It's a single arm median row in a lunge. This lunge, 98% of my weight is on my front leg. I'm hip hinge back. So I've got the strap in my left hand, but I am really working that right glute. And then initiate shoulder blade and pull in. This would be called a low row for a lot of people. This one up here, a high row. But this one really targets the lats and the lower traps, which is really helpful for the spine. And then in this particular lunge, I am really kind of mimicking what it would be like to hike up a mountain. So that's my favorite.
Training itself is part of the battle, but certainly diet and nutrition is the other half of it. So what is your approach to diet and nutrition?
It's incredibly important that I get the macro and micronutrients that I need to perform. If you think about it, when you're long distance hiking, you're basically doing like a marathon or nearly a marathon every single day for multiple days in a row. Hikers notoriously have crappy diets because they need a lot of calories, and they get it from chips and candy and just stuff that has no nutritional value to it, no energy for them. And what happens is they crash all the time. I see 20-year-olds napping all along the trail all day long. And I can't do that. I have arthritis. I have spinal issues, so I need good nutrients. So I make my food, I pre-make it. Things generally go I found 3 categories that I really like, basically Asian, Mexican, and Italian. and I will pre-make everything, put in all the spices, and it's really, really good. So I've got really nutritional breakfasts to get me going, really nutritional dinners. Lunch is still kind of a work in progress. I play around with different things there. And this year, I am going gluten-free and dairy-free. So this is going to be new. I'm testing out grains. I usually do couscous or ramen because of the fact that I can cold soak or cook. And I like to do both. Sometimes lunch is a cold soak, and sometimes you run out of fuel, so you have to cold soak. And these two grains will cold soak really well, like within an hour. Whereas like rice will take 2 days. Even and I'm talking instant rice, not the long cooking. So I've been ordering some stuff, and I'm gonna probably do like a social media post and kind of cold soak these new things and heat them and see like are they done? Could I actually do that, or am I gonna have to leave it in my kitchen and to cook because it doesn't cold soak well? So I'm gonna be trying some new stuff there, as well as also the other thing is there's a really good product to put in your oatmeal and stuff to give you some good protein, which is a product called leche nido. And it's a powdered milk that's full fat. So like carnation is generally non-fat. You don't want that. And hikers don't want non-fat anything. You want fat. And this was really good, but again, I felt at the time it was a lot more dairy than I normally do, and then I want to do non-dairy, so I am testing out some powdered coconut milk, which oftentimes doesn't dissolve. So I'm gonna try different products there, but we're gonna see how the gluten-free, dairy-free goes on the trail. But I think it'll make my joints feel better.
Do you have any kind of a cheat meal that you throw in once in a while?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, yeah. Right now, because of the surgery that I had in December was an esophageal surgery. I had apparently a monstrous hiatal hernia that required 2 surgeons to fix, and I was on a liquid diet. So I've been my favorite meal is like cheese and crackers or cheese and a nice artesian bread or something like that. I haven't done any of that. And I'm hesitant to add that back in because I actually feel so much better in my joints. So what my husband and I do is we will sort of make our cheat meals. I'm kind of a cookie person, and he makes these bars that are gluten-free. They've got oatmeal in them, and then like fruit for the sweet. And they totally kind of scratch that itch of I want a cookie right now. His cheat is ice cream, and he makes his own ice cream. And the only, other than the fruit that's put in there, the only other thing that probably would be, not super healthy or has sugar in it would be the condensed milk. But we've tried it without condensed milk, like with yogurt, and then you need like a chisel the next day to get it out. So, it does kind of need to have that. But yeah, I mean, I have a very checkered past with food. So it's been a development. I mean, I'll go on record as saying is that, yeah, my dancing days, shocker, I had an eating disorder. And that stuff doesn't ever really leave your head, even though you may stop the behavior. So yeah, there's always that kind of mano a mano with food. I'm feeling pretty good about it now because my diet's really clean, and I've laid down some neuroplasticity that says I don't need cheese and crackers after work because I've not done it for so long now that the cravings aren't as strong. They come up, but they're easier to dismiss.
We're going to switch gears here just a little bit and
Okay.
talk more philosophy. So tell me what motivates you to keep going today?
What motivates me to keep going? Well, my clients for one, because when you see other people around you really working hard and working past their struggles and their medical issues and like killing it, you're like, oh, I want to get on that. That's awesome. I want to be in that crowd. So definitely my clients and my friends there. My husband, I wouldn't say my husband necessarily motivates me. I mean, he's not motivating, but he supports me. So what motivates me is the fact that he's got my back and that he's going to take care of things on the home front while I leave for a month to go hike. And during that time, he's also very worried. So we both journaled on my first one. And I read his journal and I was like, wow, this was really hard on him. He was really scared about what was going to happen. So he is my support, my rock there.
So would you have done anything differently in your fitness career?
If I were to do things differently, I would do them sooner. I
Oh,
would have started this in my teens and early 20s, because then I'd probably have FKTs, which are fastest known times at this point. But I am where I am. Some people start at 60, in their 60s. Grandma Gatewood, who has a great book out, she did it in the mid 50s. At age 67, she hiked the Appalachian Trail. And Nimble-Rod, a guy just set the record in 2021 for being the oldest guy to do the Appalachian Trail, and he was in his 80s. So it's never too late. But yeah, if I could have started earlier, I would start earlier.
do you have a secret sauce that you'd like to share with our group?
I think the secret sauce is to really sort of focus on what the end game is. People that have and myself included, when you envision something that you want to do, you know where you're going to work toward. And then it's just a matter of what are the steps that need to happen to get me where I want to be. If your fitness goal is more general, I just want to be healthier, I just want to lose some weight, it's a little harder to uh, do something about that, because you don't know where you're starting, you don't know where you're going. And so if you get distracted along the way, it's just easy to kind of say, well, okay, I'll do that next week. I'll do that, after the holidays or when the summer comes. But if you have something specific that you want to do, an event of some sort, or just a goal like doing a body weight pull up, then it's just a matter of getting the steps to get there and figure out the steps that work for you. Because, let's say it is doing a full body pull up. Some people are going to have to go slower because of shoulder issues. So, that kind of stuff.
In that answer, you are kind of exhibiting, your coaching, your propensity for coaching. Let's put it that way. Before we close up here, I do want to ask you to tell us a little bit about your website, social media, and coaching endeavors. So tell us a little bit where we can find you, names and so forth, and then kind of what you do.
The name is easy because for all my social media, it's the same, which is Outdoor Adventure Athlete. It's that on Instagram, it's that on Facebook, and it's that on YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel that has all of my hikes on it. And now I'm starting to put some fitness stuff on there. And also I have a community for hikers at school.com, which is SKOOL.com, not like the regular spelling. And it's also called Outdoor Adventure Athlete. So that's probably the easiest way to find me.
That sounds great. We will also post those links in the description below so you can find Diane if you want to go seek her out. Okay. Diane, this has been inspirational. Really appreciate you coming and talking with us. I want to close up here by giving you the floor for any final comments for our audience.
Whatever it is that you want to do, there is some version of that you can do. Even if you've had the most horrendous health issues, stressors from life, there's some version of that you can do. And let's do it. Be happy. Do what makes you happy.
I want to start hiking tomorrow and I want to be prepared and do it right and so forth. How do I do that?
It might vary from where you're at. So I'm in Washington State, and Washington Trails Association, WTA.org, has a great website where you could just go on there and just start picking a hike. As far as finding groups, that's a little trickier. Some people do Meetup. I am not involved in Meetup. I think I signed up and then nothing happened and I didn't make anything happen. But I would also recommend start talking, start the conversation, because you never know if that person at work that you don't really engage with much is also a hiker and looking for someone to go hiking with. So get the conversation going. It happened with scuba diving. People that got certified scuba diving with us for cold water diving, which you think would not be very popular, is incredibly popular in the Seattle area. And once people started talking, at Microsoft or wherever they work, they found out there were divers all over the place. So it's the same thing with hiking. There's people out there. Google your area and hikes and see what comes up, because each area probably works a little bit differently as to what is the most effective way to find hikers.
Well,
and if you're in Washington, hit me up.
There you go, folks. Diane Peterson, definitely an autumn athlete that's not done yet. Thanks once again for joining us, and we will see you next time.